Alright, so today I want to talk about warming up in Siege and how you should warm up in this current Siege landscape. So you'll know that they removed T-Hunt at the start of this season of Siege, when I'm recording this anyway, which makes it a lot harder to warm up and a lot harder to be able to get into ranked as best as you can be and get consistent in game. I want to first start off before I talk about the tips and stuff. I want to first say that the way that I want to differentiate warming up from actually aim training is that if you think about your skill level on a scale of 1 to 100, where 100's the best player in the game and 1 is your average ranked teammates basically, or what it feels like anyway. Now, let's say you have when you get on, or well, even just playing the game, you'll have a range of skill. You're never going to be at the same skill level. You're going to be let's say the range could be 30 to 60 on the scale. So that means that one day you could get on, you could be 60 out of 100, compared to some days you get on, you're 30 out of 100, which means that this is one of the reasons why you're probably inconsistent playing the game. Now what does that mean for aim training and warming up? Aim training, the way that I see aim training is that it's the way to increase the higher number. So let's say your skill is 30 to 60, this is how to increase the 60 to a higher number. Now if you want to see a tutorial on how to aim train, which I could do that, if you want to see that, just drop a comment down below and I'll make a video on that. But right now we're talking about warming up, which is not how you increase the higher number, but instead it's how you sort of start off at the higher end of that scale. So there's less days where you start off at 30, there's more days where you start off at 60 or 50 or 55, and you're trying to start off as high as you can on that scale. Whereas aim training is how you create the scale higher, if that makes sense. So the way that I like to warm up, and the way that the best way I believe to warm up in the Siege right now is to play free for all. So if you're not sure how to set your arcade mode to only be free for all you need to do is go on to when you're on the main menu, click on quick play, where you'll see in the middle it'll say arcade. If you click on the settings at the bottom, there'll be a list of the arcade modes, and then you just want to set the only one to be active is free for all. Now the reason why is because free for all is how you can isolate as many gunfights against real human people in a short space of time. So essentially you'll get as many gunfights as you can and be able to warm up your aim and your arm as fast as you can, basically. I also want to mention that when you're going into these death matches to warm up, you need to go in with the mentality of you're here to warm up and take as many fights as can and play as aggressive as you can. You're not trying to go in and win. You're not trying to just hide in corners until you kill people that are running past sound horror on them and kill them. That's not what you're trying to do. All you need to do is get in, warm up your aim, get out and go and play ranked. Right? You're not trying to win death matches. Winning death matches isn't going to make you champ. Winning deathmatch isn't going to make your penis any bigger. So you need to, when you're going into a deathmatch, you need to drop your ego and just sort of play to warm up your aim. Take as many fights as you can and play aggressive as you can. Even if it's more aggressive than you're playing game, as long as you put yourself in unfavourable situations. You need to put yourself in situations that in game you would never put yourself in. I don't mean that playing positions that you would never play. I mean when you're playing games, playing ranked and stuff, you're trying to play as kind of safe so that you don't die and lose the round. But when you're playing this, it doesn't matter if you die, so you need to take as many fights as you can and play aggressive as you can. Now this first tip I'm going to give you is something you should do in every single DM, every single deathmatch you play to warm up, and this is to play with music on, and full blast music by the way. Now the music exactly that you listen to does not matter at all. Essentially just put whatever your favourite song is or whatever your favourite playlist is and just put it on. I've got a playlist specifically just for warming up and aim training, which I like to run because it just gets me in the right focus. If you have a playlist specifically for something, when you listen to that playlist, you subconsciously train yourself to be in that frame of mind. So it was the same when I was a competitive player. I had a sort of playlist I would listen to every time I play competitive games or scrims, and it would get us in that mindset. The reason why you want to play with music on is because you're not trying to improve your ability to listen for sound. You're trying to warm up your aim and get your hand as fast as reacting as possible, get your reaction times ready, get your arm able to move to certain spots on the pad easier. Music on makes it so you don't have the sound to rely on. Even if you go in with the mentality of I'll play with music off, but I'm not going to listen for sound, you'll still subconsciously listen for sound without realising, because I do it as well. Even just recording the clips for this video, I was playing without music on for copyright reasons, and it was fucking dull. I don't know how people can play this game without music on, but that's just me. Now the second tip that I'm going to give you is to play your main operators. Right, this is common sense, but I see a lot of people just running around deathmatch with like a warden or something when they're a smoke main. Like you're not trying to practice with warden's gun, you're trying to practice with smoke's gun to be able to get good with smoke for when you play in ranked, right? So play your main operator, self-explanatory. When you hear me say that, you'll probably realise, yeah, that's probably right, to be fair. Because what's the point in practicing with somebody else when you're not going to play them in game, right? So just play with your main operators. Quick, simple tip. Or if you're like me who plays multiple different operators, play with the hardest gun to control, if that makes sense. Like play with the operator that has the hardest recoil, so that you're ready for when they have to play with the easier recoils. Now the third tip I'm going to give you, and this one's going to be a bit challenging for some people, and this is how you're going to practice your recoil before you get into game. So the way that I do this, in the way that I learned this method from a pro player back in the day. I think the pro was Meepy. I learned a lot of shit from Meepy. He was a fucking goat back in the day. But if you play, essentially, if you go into a deathmatch with the highest recoil gun possible, when it comes to using guns that have less recoil, it'll be so much easier. So what I'll do is I'll run around with a buck suppressor. This is something I've done for years. Yeah, when Buck had the ACOG and he would play with the buck suppressor and it would have like insane recoil. I do the same thing now, however it's a bit more controllable now. So I also tend to switch to Twitch as well, because Twitch has one of the highest recoils in the game as well, with the 1.5 and stuff. So play with the highest recoil in the game, and you're not going to be trying to one-tap people. You're not trying to like make it easier for yourself. You're trying to make it as hard as possible by aiming only for body shots. You're trying to, like, obviously it's not the end of the world if you hit headshots, because you should be aiming for the head anyway. But if you're trying to like prepare for a ranked and you want to practice your recoil, you should be trying to practice your recoil, right? You should take as many bullets as you can to kill people. You should be aiming for the body and trying to recoil perfectly onto the body, not like have the recoil go onto the head. Realistically, if you're aiming for the chest and the recoil goes onto the head, that's not a good thing. If you're trying to warm up, at least. If you're in game, that's a good thing, right? Because you get the kill anyway. But in deathmatch, when you're trying to warm up, you're trying to practice your recoil. Make sure you're trying to practice your recoil by spraying at people, not just tapping them. Now the fourth tip that I'm going to give you is to practice your one taps. I mean, the reason why you want to do this is because Siege is a game with a one-hit headshot mechanic, right? If you can get good at hitting headshots, you'll easily boost your stats, you'll easily win more games, you'll easily win more rounds, you'll easily get more match MVPs if that's what you want, because you know how to aim for the head. Now this goes against the last tip. Obviously you want to do these tips, you want to go, apart from the first one, you want to do these tips one at a time, right? So that you can focus on them. But for all of them, you should have the first tip going, the music on. If you want to make this harder for yourself, you can play somebody with a DMR, like you can play a Dokkaebi, or you can play a Rooney, or you can play a Tubarão. Anyone with a DMR just to only hit one taps. However, that might be a bit harder for you, and you might not, you might just like bomb out in games, in death matches. So you don't want to do it. If it's detrimenting you that much, then you can just use an SMG or an AR. But realistically, if you want to try and take this seriously, you want to play with a DMR and just only hit one taps, or even make it even harder, play with a pistol. That's up to you if you want to do that. Now the fifth tip and the final tip for this video is to practice your movement. I don't mean the way that you're sprinting around corners. I don't mean like just crouch walking around. I mean practice your leaning, practice how you peek things, how you sort of slice angles with your aim, and how you basically just how you go around the map aiming at things, how you flick to people by movement. Like a lot of aiming isn't just moving your aim onto someone's head. It also is like moving, like AD strafing, so that you're closer to the target, if that makes sense. As well as, especially in Siege, movement is key, because you can have like leaning around corners, you can quick peek things. If you get good at quick peeking, it makes it basically impossible to kill you. Well, not impossible, but it makes it really hard to kill somebody. If you go into a ranked game and someone's running around leaning like a fucking prime bolo, you're not going to have fun in that game, because he's just going to shit on you nearly every chance possible, right? Now leaning isn't as good as it was back then anymore, but you can still get away with stuff like that if you practice your movement. Also, if you want to see a full movement guide, then drop a comment down below as well. I'm not sure what exactly I want to do content wise, so if there's anything that you want to see content wise, just drop a comment down below. So that's pretty much all for the tips. I'm just going to give you a few little like closing sort of statements. Like the first thing I want to make sure I get across is that you should do this for fun as well. If you're playing these death matches to warm up and you start getting tilted, then stop instantly, just leave the game and go do something else for a little bit. If you go into a like, you're not here to you win, right? You're not here to win games. You're here to warm up. If you get tilted in this deathmatch, you're gonna go into ranked and still be tilted, which is not it's counterintuitive, counterproductive. Because you're trying to get into a good frame of mind for a ranked, you're trying to get your aim ready, and then you're going into ranked tilted because you just played a couple of DMs against a rat who's crouched in a corner. It's not what you want to do, right? Makes sense. Realistically as well, you should think about how much time you have to actually play these deathmatches, because you can do these tips 2, 3, 4, and 5 within one game each, like at the end of the day. Or if you don't have enough time to play 4 deathmatches, then you can do like half and half and 2, because it's a 10-minute DM, so that you can do 5 minutes of one, 5 minutes of the other if you don't have time. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed, drop a like, and I'll see you in the next video.